Alright, welcome back. This time we are doing another update video, going over the 5v5 map in a different perspective this time around. We do have a clearer image, so we can actually see the structures in the base this time around and see what they are. We can also see the design of the turrets, the landscaping, as well as the map. We have some cool things to talk about there. And of course, we have this giant-ass dragon doing a flyby here, about to blow off some steam. So let's go ahead and talk about him first because, you know, obviously he's just there, so... First of all, I think he's going to be the main boss. So, similar to how Kraken is for the 3v3 mode, I think the Dragon will be in place of the Kraken for the 5v5 mode. Heck, they even look somewhat similar. Maybe this is just the next evolution of the Kraken. He actually gets some wings, and, you know, he grows a little bit more of a ferocious look because he has all these scales and these little, like, spikes coming off now. But, I don't know, maybe there's some kind of connection. Regardless, I think because he is a dragon, he's going to be the main boss. Usually in most 5v5 modes in any MOBA, for the vast majority of these MOBAs, they have two bosses. They have the big main boss and then you have the lesser boss. And so you have the placements being in the left side and the right side of the river. One on one side and the other on the other side. And so, again, I think he's going to be the main boss. So I don't know what he's going to do. He might just be something you kill late game. You get a nice buff that increases your attack damage or your crystal power, whatever it may be, your weapon power, crystal power, or you know, maybe it just gives you a bunch of health regen. Who knows? We'll have to see what happens there. But one thing I think that would be kind of interesting, which will lead me on to the next thing here in a second, is maybe he does something to the base, because you can see here we have crystals that protect the vein crystal. At least it appears so. And maybe he has some kind of relevance when it comes to taking down the enemy base. Like maybe instead of him coming down the lane and pushing like you would normally have in you know, the 3v3 mode, he does bombardments across the lane. So if there's turrets, he'll bombard the turrets. He'll do flybys and bombard them with a bunch of fire, doing AoE damage to even targets that are in there, like heroes, enemy heroes, not yourselves. Or, you know, maybe he just goes straight for the main, you know, base, and he does damage to these lesser crystals, getting you closer and closer to the main crystal. I don't know, which will lead me into the next thing right now. So, straying away from the dragon now, let's go ahead and talk about the crystals themselves in the base. So we have the main vein crystal. We also have the three lesser crystals. That's what I'm going to call them for now, the lesser crystals. So it looks like they are actually attached to the vein crystal in some fashion, whether it's a circuit or it's just a power supply of some sort. They look like they affect the vein crystal in some fashion. And I don't think they're going to be an offensive structure. I don't think they're going to be additional turrets like we have in 3v3 mode. They might have some sort of, you know, energy beam they send off. But I think their main purpose is going to be defending the vein crystal. And what do I mean by that? I think they're going to have some sort of layered system. So the vein crystal is going to be absurdly defensive. Like, it's going to be so tanky, like you cannot do damage to it unless you take out these lesser crystals. And so I think that as you take out each one, it lowers the effectiveness of the barrier that's on the vein crystal. And when you take out the last lesser crystal, the barrier disperses and it's gone. I think that's what the system's going to be like. I'm just speculating. I'm not saying this is fact. But I think that's what's going to happen here. So we have potentially a layered system of defense for the vein crystal. And the more you take out these lesser crystals, the more susceptible the vein crystal becomes to damage. I think that you probably could still do damage to the vein crystal, even when these are up. If you have enough damage, maybe. But I think in general, you're going to have to take out these lesser crystals to bring down the effectiveness of the barrier so you can hit the vein crystal harder and more effectively and end the game sooner. Otherwise, you're going to be beating on that thing for a while because the barrier is going to be so effective. I think that's what it is. It might just be something like League of Legends where it's just, they're just inhibitors. And it just looks cool to connect them to the vein crystal. Like maybe they're just inhibitors where, again, like in League of Legends, where if you take it out, it spawns the super minions on the enemy side to help push. So every time they take out one of your lesser crystals, they get super minions and they can push harder. It might be that. I don't know. But I think the idea of the defensive layered system is a lot more unique, not so streamlined, because you don't really see that in a lot of MOBAs. And it's really cool to actually see that happen. I think the only MOBA I can think of that's very similar to that system, I believe this is the game that I remember seeing. It's called Paragon. So Paragon has these crystals, very similar to what we are seeing here. And you take them out, and it makes the main vein crystals susceptible to damage every time you take them out. I don't know. I think it's very similar, but at the same time, not quite. Because I think in that game, you couldn't even do damage to the main building unless you take out these crystals beforehand. But who knows? We'll have to see what happens here. I don't know exactly how it's going to work. I'm just speculating, so maybe I'm just completely wrong. But I think that's a good idea. I think that might be a great approach to this, and it would be very unique, and I would love that system, to be honest. It would make for some interesting fights. Even when all the turrets are down, you have this defense system here, where it's not going to be easy to just come in there and take the vein. You have to go through these objectives and push your way through. Because even though you go through the turrets, you still have a pretty hard defensive line to go push through, and it gives a chance to the enemy team, or the team that's being pushed, it gives them a chance to return the favor, get those bounties, and potentially push back, because their vein doesn't go down like a freaking fly with a fly swatter. But anyway, so let's go ahead and move on from those structures and go into the turrets. So we do have the turrets here. They definitely look a little different than the turrets we see in the 3v3 mode. I think the 3v3 mode's a little bit more industrial as far as the look, maybe militaristic. There we go, that's the word. And whereas these are more something you would see like in the medieval era, at least in my opinion. Something you would see on the castle walls that would shoot down and bombard the enemies coming. But I don't know. It's not quite as clear as I would like to really see the details. And even if I zoomed in, it just looks crappier. But I think it looks pretty cool. I like the way they look in the top-down view too. It looks really, really cool. And then now let's go ahead and move on into the structures. Not the structures. The aesthetics of the map. So the overall, the encompassing little nice touches here we have. So you can see there at the top middle, we do have some like statues too that are popping up here. Looks like they're like angelic warriors, maybe. I'm not sure. Maybe dragons. It looks like they have wings. They definitely have wings of some sort, or just things that look like wings at least. So maybe like some angelic warriors with like a sword. Maybe somebody else has like a staff or like a like an axe or something. They don't do anything. They're just aesthetically there. But they definitely look kind of cool from this distance, at least. And I'm sure they're going to look even better when we're actually in the game itself, looking up at them. Or, I mean, well, we're looking down technically, but, you know what I mean. As far as the landscape, though, I mean, anything else, it definitely has that Vainglory feel to it. It definitely feels Vainglory-esque. I think it's because it's in the same engine. We also have a very similar center mid lane where they have the little circle, and I'm assuming it's going to be like a Vainglory symbol. Right now it doesn't look like it's the Vainglory symbol, but maybe they're going to have that change to where it actually still is. That way it still, we can see the attachment between this one and 3v3 mode, like the lore, the symbol is still structurally there. We also have this main spawning area, which seems a little lackluster. Like you can see here, it has like this red dot in the center, and then I'm assuming we're just gonna have like a barrier preventing us from leaving, like we would see in the 3v3 mode. I would like to see a little bit more, maybe like the market there kind of filled in, and it might still be there. Like, who knows? How we have in the current 3v3 mode, we have like just like the outlining like little touches that make it feel like it's an actual environment and not just a place for battle. It looks like it's actually like part of like a village of sorts, or like the outskirts of a village. This one seems like it's just a battle arena. Like there's no structures that would really emphasize the idea of the world itself is intertwined with the map. besides the foliage and the jungle there. There's no like attachments to society. That's what I'm kind of saying. Whereas in 3v3 mode, we do have that. We have like the shop kind of sitting around, and in the actual spawning area, we have other, caravans and just market guys kind of sitting around. And it kind of gives a little nice touch to the map. And hopefully they do that same thing here for this spawn point and kind of fill it in. And I think they might just do that, but we'll have to see. And then, we also have, it looks like, a very standard jungle. Not much to say about it other than like it definitely seems like it's going to be a very streamlined jungle experience. You get the minions, you kind of go to the other jungle, try to maybe take some jungle from the enemy. Nothing much there. I mean, the only thing we can't know yet is like what type of minions are going to be there, what their effects will be, and how they're going to affect the player and the rest of the meta of the map. It might dictate which heroes are great for the jungle, or dictate what rotations are best, and just when to gank, all that stuff. A lot of these effects that these minions give can be pretty seriously impactful on the transition of the match. So we don't really know any of that information just yet. I'm trying to see if I see anything else that's relevant. Right now, I don't really see much more. The other side seems equivalent to this side that we have closer to us as far as the enemy base. It looks like it's a mirror image, so there's nothing different there. And yeah, the jungle, like again, it's just very streamlined, it seems. You're going to have brush, for ganking areas. You're going to have, certain angles of minions, so you can, use that to your advantage or, disadvantage, whatever it may be. It's gonna be cool to see some people going through the river and then using the walls of the jungle to kind of jump over and go through and get to safety, or gank over the wall when they're coming through the river. The one thing that I am curious about though is if we're gonna have a change in the vision system, because this is a lot of area to cover as far as vision. It's double the area of the 3v3. It may be even more. I don't know, but as far as I can tell, it looks like it's about double, maybe just a tiny bit more of the encompassing surface area of the 3v3. And so to cover that with, I don't know if it's going to be 2 supports, I don't know if there's only going to be 1, but to have 1 person responsible for all that vision, and being scout traps where you can just run it over and pop it, it's going to be very hard to sustain that vision. And so I think there might be some changes to vision going forward, at least for 5v5 mode. Something like a ward like you would see in League of Legends, a ward being something that just has a duration. It doesn't have any other effect other than revealing a specific area. That way you can see things coming at you. If it does expire, it just disappears and you have to put another one down. But you can buy them in the shop, or you might have maybe a passive spell that kind of is used in the same fashion. I don't know. We'll have to see. And also, that also leads me into like spells themselves. So like what I'm talking about when I say spells is in most 5v5 games that I've played, you have some sort of extra ability you can choose to customize how you play your character. So you might have one that's called like, for instance, I don't know, execute, and we're just using knowledge from different games. It's called execute, and it does, a certain amount of damage. And you use that to secure like as a finishing blow, or you have things that increase your attack speed. But each one of these spells have a fairly long cooldown, like 140 seconds, so a little bit more than two minutes, so you have to use them wisely. Another one would be like a jungling spell. So if you're going to be a jungle, you would get a jungling spell to help assist you and clear faster, and have different effects that might help a jungle gank. So a lot of times they have things that slow enemies, so that jungling spell can help clear the minions. And it also has a secondary effect where if you cast it on an enemy hero, it inflicts a slow on that target for like a few seconds. Things like that. I'm actually interested to see what sort of new systems we'll have outside of the map, and just the general like idea of how heroes are played within the map. So like spells, or maybe even get into more intricacies like the actual mastery system that you have like in League of Legends, or like the arcana that you have like from Arena of Valor. Things like that. I'm interested to see what they'll bring to the table. Even if they don't, I think a lot of the map uniqueness so far might be enough to be just very unique in its own right, and you might not even need it. They might just make the jungle in such a fashion that you might not need those extra ways to customize your character, because the jungle is just that. It has it already incorporated. I don't know. We'll have to see. But anyways, there you go. There is another look at the 5v5 map. So again, we went over the lesser crystals. I'm thinking, again, it's more of a defense system where it's a layered defense system. The more lesser crystals you take out, the more susceptible your Vayne becomes. I don't think they're going to have any offensive attributes, but they might. They might have maybe a, they might shoot an energy beam of sorts at the targets. We'll have to see. I don't know. I looked at the turrets. Turrets seem pretty cool. More medieval in my opinion. A little less industrial, which makes sense because the map itself isn't very industrial. It's a little bit more, maybe even Roman-like. I would say it's closer to Roman-like, if anything, now that I think about it. But yeah, so we have that. And of course, we went over the aesthetics of the map to some small degree. We looked at the statues, we looked at the jungle, and we talked about it a little bit, how that might happen. And also certain things that might be nice to have that would affect the gameplay itself, like the vision items. Is there going to be a new item for vision on top of scout traps and such? Since scout traps will be a little harder to use throughout the map since it's a bigger landscape, and more opportunities for enemies to pop your scout traps, meaning more gold spent in a sitting for a single hero. Or, things like the spells or the masteries, things that further customize a character and really make you effective in the roles that you want to play, especially for a 5v5 since it's a lot more complex. But anyways, there you go. Oh, of course, we went over the freaking dragon. The dragon is so badass. And hopefully he'll have a badass, effect on the map, whether he bombards the enemy base or he just pushes down lane like the Kraken, who knows? Maybe he'll have some cool abilities that he'll cast as he goes down the lane, like he'll spew out a bunch of fire across the ground doing burning damage. Who knows? We'll have to see. But again, let me know what you guys think of this map so far. What you think might be cool to be added into the map, or what is already here that maybe I missed, or just just your general opinion of the 5v5 mode coming at us very, very soon. I think the actual reveal is December during the live event, and then of course we are looking at probably a 2018 full global launch of 5v5 early 2018. I'm suspecting January, February, early at the latest, but that's not set in stone, so we never know what might happen going forward. It might be delayed, it might be pushed forward, I don't know. But definitely pre-register too. There was a pre-registration for you guys to fill out if you guys want to have early access to this. I'd highly recommend, if you're at all interested in 5v5 mode, definitely pre-register, because you don't want to miss the opportunity, because you're going to feel left out when everybody's enjoying their time in 5v5 mode and you're like, how come I can't play? Why should I have to pre-register? Just do it, man. It's not very hard. You just put your email in and you're done. So do it. Just do it. But anyways, there you go. Hopefully you guys enjoyed this. If you did, leave a like, subscribe, and I will see you guys next time. Later.